And to help us better understand the science behind earthquakes, I'm joined now by Frederick J. Simons, professor of geosciences at Princeton University. Frederick Simons, thank you so much for joining us. Great to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Now, a magnitude 4.8 earthquake hit the Northeast today. It was felt in New York City, New Jersey, Philly, and even in Maryland. While earthquakes might be common on the West Coast, why are they so rare on the East Coast?
Well, our coast is what we call a passive margin, and there isn't much actively going on geologically speaking. Everything has been sort of set in its ways for millions of years, but yet that doesn't mean that there aren't cracks in the fabric of the continental plate and in the oceanic plate as well. And so sometimes these cracks, they slowly accumulate their little bits of stress that they have left to accumulate, and then they go off, and then we have these relatively minor and relatively infrequent earthquakes.
How likely are we to get aftershocks that we can feel?
We've already had a number in this area, and I haven't felt anything yet personally, and I don't know anyone that does. They are small, 1.82, 2.1. Our instruments pick these things up. This is what we're doing as seismologists and geophysicists. We are monitoring the Earth's movement all the time, and we have networks of instruments. And so we count those things and we assess them. But the likelihood of us feeling shaking is ultimately not that great unless you're right on top of where that's going to happen. Here, I was away about 25 miles, about 40 kilometers away from where this happened, and it was a big shock. It was a strong, prolonged 35-second period during which this whole massive building that I'm in was shaking. And I grabbed my coat and I ran out, or rather, I looked for cover, but then it was over.
On that note, the USGS reported this quake was 4.8 magnitude with a depth of 1 kilometer. What is the significance of depth when it comes to how destructive an earthquake will be?
The closer we are, the shallower it is, the more damage there will be. And so an earthquake of a kilometer depth, that's ultimately very, very shallow. That's pretty much right here on the surface. And so that is part of why we are feeling it so intensely, because it is not distant from us, neither in linear distance along the road, but nor in how deep you have to go into the earth for finding where that energy originates. If you hear about those earthquakes in Japan or in Alaska or in Chile, those are going to be sometimes hundreds of miles deep, and then they could be much larger, but we still wouldn't feel very much of them, because we are ultimately hundreds of kilometers or miles away from them.
Oh,
and so 1 kilometer is a shallow earthquake. Right here, we can probably go put our finger almost on the fault. That's how little 1 kilometer is on the scale of the Earth.
Oh, wow. Now, we do know that there's a solar eclipse coming on Monday. Now, we know that the moon can impact waves here on Earth. What about the solar eclipse? Any potential impact there?
Well, it hasn't happened yet, so it's clearly not the cause of this one. It's not crazy to think that celestial bodies influence us, because in fact we know that the moon and the sun, they create our tides and they move water around, and they do squeeze the Earth a little bit here and there very predictably and very measurably. But the influence of or linking any of this sort of distant celestial cosmic behavior to what happened here in New Jersey is very unlikely.
Well, Frederick Simons, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.